All right. We are here today with my friend Ross, and we're going to be talking about missions, especially just his calling and then short-term mission trips and what that entails. So just let him introduce yourself and tell us what you do, your name, your family, and all that, and where you serve.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ross Duncan, married to my wife, Carmi, and we have 3 children. Owen, who's 6, Isla, who's 3, and Amelia is 1. And we live in France, southern France, in kind of around the city of Nice, in the southeast corner of France. We're working there through 2 churches, and we're doing a lot of leadership training and reaching out to the French people, the North African population, and it's a very international city. So we're reaching out to people from all over the world.
Awesome. So Ross, I just want us to talk about your calling, and when was the first time that you felt God calling you into full-time ministry and all that, and just walk us briefly through that experience. How old were you? Did the sky turn pink and God said go? All that.
It probably started back in high school. My church went about every 4 years, did a youth group trip down to Mexico to serve in various ways.
Was that Denton Bible?
No, that was in South Carolina.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I didn't think deeply about that trip and why I was going. It was kind of a rite of passage. Okay. It was something everybody did, and I wanted to do it. But it was a pretty amazing experience just as a high schooler. But again, I wasn't real solid in my faith at the time. Didn't really think very deeply about it. And then in college, I was involved in Christian ministry. And
let's talk about that trip that you took in high school. What did you guys go to do in Mexico as a high school?
There was a church that our home church was partnered with, and they needed a kind of a wing built onto their existing facility. And we went to do the manual labor to help out and just chip in that way. Again, that trip itself wasn't a huge part, but that was my first experience with another culture, going into another country. Then in college, I really wanted to do like a summer trip to the beach, which would have been a mission trip, but because my girlfriend decided to go on an overseas mission trip, I decided to go on that same trip.
Yeah.
And so we went to Slovakia, and I ended up spending a couple of summers in Slovakia. And then when I was interviewing for jobs at the end of my time in university, I really had a strong desire. A lot of people call it the Lord's calling. I think it was definitely, the experience of it was just a strong sense of urgency and desire to go back to Slovakia for a year.
So you went to Slovakia for how long in this short-term trip? Was it like...
The summer trips were 2 months each.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's really long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were in college at this time?
Yeah, so that was during the summers between years in college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had invested 2 summers in Slovakia, and I wanted to go back and invest a year, which turned into 2 years.
What were you guys doing in Slovakia?
We were doing student ministry among university students and high school students.
Yeah.
I was mostly focused on high school during that time.
Yeah.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
It was through Campus Crusade for Christ.
Okay.
Now people call it Cru.
Yeah.
But
so you were there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you come back to America.
Yeah. So when I came back to America during that time, really came to the conclusion that I wanted to be in full-time ministry, but at the time didn't really think that was going to be overseas.
Yeah.
And it was at that time that I transitioned to Denton to come and do Tom Nelson's men's program, the Young Guns program. As just discipleship, I wanted to get involved in a local church. Had never been very involved for a long time. Hadn't been really focused on ministry through a local church. I wanted to explore that, and so when I came here, though, within a few months, I knew, like, if the area of ministry, the type of ministry that God was calling me to was going to be overseas.
Yeah.
So I figured that out pretty early on. That was in 2004.
Yeah.
And just for perspective, I didn't move overseas until 2012.
Oh, wow.
So there was 8 years in there. where I was preparing and I was being patient. The Lord was calling me to be patient and prepare and wait. And I was involved in missions throughout that time.
Yeah.
But and I thought at the time that I was going to go back to Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
But through some circumstances, interacting with people from different cultures in Denton, Texas, the Lord kind of changed my heart and the focus towards France.
So I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk specifically about short-term trips. Mm-hmm. There is mixed feelings about short-term trips. There are people that feel like they are very important and necessary, and there are people that think that it is a waste of God's resources. So instead of us going to France for a week, why don't we give that money to the people that are there serving full-time? Mm-hmm. What is your take on that?
Well, I think it's both and. I think that there are a lot of types of short-term missions which probably do waste resources.
Yeah.
But there's a lot which do not, and I think are effective and important.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's important to evaluate it mm-hmm. and be responsible. But I think the best way is to trust the word of the long-term missionaries who are calling you to come. Yeah. And so we organize a variety of trips throughout the year, mm-hmm. and we don't do so just to meet the needs of those who are coming, though they do certainly have their own personal needs met, just in terms of the experience and growing in their Christian faith, growing in their perspective of what God's doing in the world. Those are all really valuable things that come out of it. But we organize trips based on our needs, the needs of the local ministry. And we invite people to come in and help us with projects where we need the additional the help and the additional resources. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, a lot of our short-term trip, the functions that the short-term team provides, they also bring in resources that help us actually perform those functions.
So you would say that short-term trips are good as long as they're responsibly done.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Give us an example of a mission trip that is irresponsibly done.
Well, I really don't. I've never been a part of one, so I don't know. I mean, I think that one's typically the rule of thumb is if it's not done in partnership with people who are going to do follow-up with those who are interacted with, who are served while there. If it's mm-hmm. done totally independently of anyone who remains behind, that's a good rule of thumb. That's probably not a very responsible way to do short-term missions.
So you want to do a short-term mission where after the short-term team leaves, there is significant follow-up and continuation of the ministry of those who are there full-time. Yeah. All right. So before we leave, I want to talk about you a little bit. Mm-hmm. So you went to France and you took your wife and your 1.5-year-old kid there. Mm-hmm. And then 2 of your children were born in France.
Right.
Talk to us about that experience, because there are people that have a calling to go do long-term ministry overseas, mm-hmm. but then they have this 1-year-old child, or even less, even younger, mm-hmm. and that becomes a stumbling block to going overseas. So talk us through your conversations with your wife, with your family, and just with yourself to bring yourself to a place where you're taking your 1-year-old child overseas.
I mean, of course, we moved to France. The medical care wasn't a huge concern, mm-hmm. but we're leaving grandparents. There's going to be distance there, but all of our family was very supportive, and it was a good. I think it was a good time frame. We didn't really have a lot of hesitancy about his age, about Owen's age at 1.5, moving there. At that age, actually, children are very resilient and just versatile. Versatile. I don't know if that's a good word, but they just adjust automatically to their environment. And so he's really, even though he was 1.5 years when he moved there, he never knew any different. And of course, mm-hmm. our other 2 who were born in France, they of course didn't know anything different. It's just life is normal. So that's a great time actually, whether you don't have any kids or you have young kids. But some of my teammates, they moved with kids when they were teenagers, and it was a more significant adjustment to them. But they did amazing, and they learned the language way faster than any of us. And, and they became some of the most effective missionaries on our team just because they were in school and more culturally connected than we were. But I mean, I don't see any, it's been all around. It's been a great experience for our family and for our kids, and they're learning the second language, and they have friends from all over the world, and so I think it's just in terms of what they're experiencing, I think it's a very enriching thing.
How often do they get to see their grandparents and vice versa?
Relatively frequently.
Okay.
I mean, our parents have the means to come over, so I think all of them come over almost every year, if not every year and a half. If we don't come to the U.S. in between. So I think on average we're seeing them at least once a year.
And technology makes it really easy.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're talking daily on stuff like this, and they're staying connected.
Well, Ross, thank you so much, and I hope somebody has been blessed by your testimony.
Hope so too.
And thank you for tuning in. We're gonna find another missionary and bring them on here and talk to them about their experience. So God bless you and see you soon.
Bless.